Good morning and welcome everyone to today's webinar. By way of introduction, I'm Anne Livingston, the Chair of the Expert Reference Group of the Queensland Government funded Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. I'll be moderator for today's webinar on the Open Data Institute Community Sector Case Studies using Open Data. This webinar is part of a series of sessions being facilitated by Community Resourcing for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. These webinars have been designed from feedback and requests we have received through the collaborative. Our webinars are bringing together local, national and international perspectives in research and development, as well as focusing on the deployment of smart assistive technology in the community care sector specifically. Just a little bit about community resourcing. We've got extensive international linkages and have been fortunate to work with many international projects and research entities. For those of you who have attended previous sessions and may be already using our collaborative, we'd know that we have been funded by the Queensland Government to bring together an online platform for community care service providers who are interested in collaborating on issues and practices related to smart assistive technology. This site is accessible to all and is free to register. By way of disclaimer, we need to note that neither Community Resourcing or the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services are promoting or endorsing any particular product, research entity or organisation. Rather, our webinars serve to inform viewers of examples of various smart assistive technologies in deployment or in development. As attendees at today's session and in the interests of recording, we have muted your microphones, but we encourage you to ask questions, and these questions can be added to the question pane on the dashboard on the right of your screen. There will be an opportunity at the end of the sessions to have these answered. And as has been the case in previous sessions, we've been inundated with questions, so we asked you if you post your questions early so we can ensure that we cover your issues in today's session. In today's session, we welcome back Maree Adshead. Maree will discuss a range of open data case studies in relation to community care sector, and it builds on her previous introduction to the use of open data. These case studies will include My Community Directory, RDNS Data Research in Community Care, the work being undertaken by a Victorian Provider, and a transport project. By way of an introduction, Maree is the founding CEO of the Open Data Institute of Queensland, known as ODI Queensland. The ODI mission is to connect, equip and inspire people around the world to innovate with data. ODI Queensland is now in its third year, and it's already been recognised not only within Queensland but nationally and internationally as a leader in bringing business, industry, academia and government together to utilise the government's data as a strategic resource. Maree's had a really varied career. Began in the legal profession as a partner of a Tier 1 national law firm. 10 years later, she co-founded a software startup which achieved great success and which was a recipient of multiple awards for excellence in innovation. Maree also holds a number of complementary roles. She's appointed by the Minister as a Queensland Small Business Champion and one of 6 civil society representatives on the interim working group overseeing the implementation of Australia's first national Open Government Action Plan, as well as being on various state and local government open data advisory groups. Her past industry representative roles include past chair of the Technology Council of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland, and the past chair of the Queensland branch of the Australian Information Industry Association of Queensland. Good morning, Maree, and welcome again back to our webinars, and welcome to today's session.
Thanks very much, Anne. I'm just going to click on there for screen sharing, and my screen should be about to pop up now.
Yes.
Okay, we're good? Okay. Thanks everyone for having me back. It's my pleasure to be talking again with this group. Just a quick recap on the Open Data Institute Australia network. We are funded by a whole range of industry sponsors, and I never miss an opportunity to acknowledge and thank those, so they're appearing now on your screen. The only change I'm excited to say about that array of sponsors and supporters is TATS Group has changed from a supporter to one of our foundation sponsors, and we'll be welcoming their group CIO to our board, Mandy Ross, which is really cool. Now, this is what a little step back in time and what we covered at the last webinar. We looked at what is data, what is open data, and why and how is that different to data and what differentiates it. So what makes data open? Why do we need to open data? And we talked about some of the examples and opportunities that can be unlocked by enabling others to reuse and repurpose our data. And we had a little look at examples of how data has been used to create value. So just on that, the important thing, if you did miss the first webinar, was this what is open data? And we'll just do a quick refresh on the definition. So open data is data that anyone can access, use and share. And that's really it in a nutshell. It's the only important thing you need to remember about what differentiates, what makes data open is it's just any data, any data that has been given a license on it for anyone to access, use and share, and it becomes usable when it's available in easy to use, common machine readable formats. We're going to touch today on, hang on, I'm just going to move along. One more slide. Oh, hang on, I've moved into the spectrum. So that was the open data spectrum, just as part of our little quick recap. I'll just step back into that one. Just to remind you about data existing in a spectrum, and that the open data that I'm talking about today is data that's in that category of open. It's got the a license that has given the user permission to reuse and share it for any purpose. Today we're going to have a little look at something different. So we're going to start with having a couple of videos today. So we're going to look at some examples of finding stories in data and how data scientists are using data to tell stories. A video about government and individuals and communities being how to unlock value in their data. Going to have a very quick deep dive into licensing, and it won't be too deep, just to make it clear for you to understand sort of how those different licenses operate. So when you start to see them on data, you'll be able to remember what we spoke about, because there's some pretty easy tricks to identify those. Then I'm going to, as Anne said in the introduction, have a look at some case studies, and I've got some there that we'll be talking about, and again touching on how to build your own data literacy, because I find that when we talk about the opportunity and people get quite interested and excited about how to do this, where do I start? So we'll have a quick touch on that as well. So I'm just going to jump out of this screen and into my other one and start this video for us.
I'm Dave Tarrant, trainer and data scientist at the Open Data Institute. Stories help us put data into the world. They delight, enchant, inspire, educate, motivate and challenge us. And data is a rich resource from which stories can be built. But data on its own is not inspiring, it's not educational, and to most it's not even delightful. Data scientists can play a key role in analysing data, but they also have a key part to play in storytelling with that data. Many significant examples exist where data has been used to tell stories. From over 100 years ago, Florence Nightingale was an early pioneer of using data to tell a story. And she used military data to show where disease was a greater cause of death than bullets. so something could be done about that to save people's lives. Hans Rosling and the Gapminder team use stories to help educate people about the world, from things like the moving poverty line to the growing population. Even President Obama put a challenge out to people to use data to analyze the impact of mass shootings on US lives versus the number of lives lost through terrorism. And these are extremely effective uses of that data to tell stories. The role of a data scientist as a good storyteller is key to help continue to show the important role that data can play in all aspects of our lives. The data scientist can look to the field of data journalism for those key storytelling skills. A data journalist looks to data as a news source for their stories. In data science, the story may be a byproduct of the other work that they are doing. Equally important are the data skills and the ability to then be able to tell the story. As the web scales, increasing amounts of data has made it hard for people to make sense of the data. Stories enable us to communicate the meaning found in the data and help educate, challenge, and inspire us.
Okay, so I'll just flick back into present mode. Hang on a sec. So one of the good examples I took away from that video was this data has been used to tell stories for many years. It's not something that's new, and it's not something that the open data movement can certainly claim, but this is something that's been going on for a very long time, and I particularly like that example of Florence Nightingale using data to demonstrate and provide evidence to inform better decision making during those times. So now I'm just going to jump onto another short video about unlocking data value from open data.
My name's Ben Cave, and I'm a trainer here at the ODI. Open data is driving innovation and growth by revealing opportunities for companies both large and small to deliver new services, improve efficiency, and identify savings. Open data is a natural resource of the digital age, but unlike other natural resources like coal or diamonds, it can be used by everyone at the same time. This means open data literacy is a crucial skill for any company that wants to adapt to a changing world and to take advantage of this new boom in resources. For example, in agriculture, open data is already being used to improve crop yields and feed a growing population. Open data is helping governments everywhere improve the efficiency of their public services, build trust with citizens, and boost engagement in the political process. A new generation of voters has come to expect a digitally literate and engaged government, which means that open data literacy is no longer a luxury for civil servants, but a critical aspect of service delivery. So from the UK to Burkina Faso, Estonia to Australia, and Japan to Mexico, governments across the world are introducing open data policies at the heart of their agendas. Open data is helping to unlock economic value by providing the raw material for innovation. To give you an example, in the transport sector, open data is forming a boom in app companies. Open data is also being used as a catalyst for digital transformation in government, and it's increasingly at the core of public policy to release data openly. Finally, it's becoming a key source of evidence for policymakers as they use open data from a variety of sources to improve the policy process. Open data is helping to connect people to key topics and create a more informed debate around cultural issues. Open data is also saving lives, with geographic information and aid statistics being used by humanitarian groups to deliver supplies to disaster zones. In 2015, open data has already been used to help the people of Haiti and the Philippines respond to disasters and is driving the response to Ebola in West Africa.
Okay. So as I indicated at the start, I thought it would be also useful to step into an explanation about open data licenses, because as I mentioned at the beginning, the license is key to differentiating sort of data from open data and knowing how you can and can't use data that others have made available to you. So we're just going to have a quick little look at what Ellen Broad has to say. Ellen is our Canberra-based representative here in Australia, and she's also our trainer, and she's a really, really great trainer. She'll explain the licenses.
My name's Ellen, and I'm the policy lead at the Open Data Institute. Without a license, your data isn't truly open. As well as making your data machine readable and published, you need a license that tells other people that they can access, use, and share your data. Without a license that says these things, your data isn't truly open. So without a license, you're not giving businesses, organizations, startups permission to innovate. By permitting anyone to use, access, and share your data for a range of purposes, commercial and non-commercial, you're unlocking an enormous amount of innovation. You are providing them with certainty and permission to take risks, and this is really important to guarantee the benefits of open data. For an open license, the simpler the license, the better. Quite often we're talking about data that will be remixed, integrated with other data sets. So the simpler the license for your open data, the easier it will be for the reuser to mix it with other data sets and create new products and services. The Creative Commons standard licenses are a really useful, simple standard for licensing your open data. The Creative Commons Attribution License is the one that we recommend for publishers and individuals publishing open data. If you're a government or another organization who can't use a standard license like the Creative Commons license, it's still useful to think about making it as simple and understandable as possible for the reuser. If you're a company or an organization or a department with a commitment to publishing open data, sometimes you might have contractors providing services on your behalf. To ensure that the data that's being collected and used as part of those contracted services is also published as open data, you can include clauses to that effect in any contracts that you have with them. This is a nice way of seeing through the open data cycle and ensure that all of the data that's involved in the delivery of important services is published as open data where possible.
Okay, thanks everybody. I hope that wasn't too much videos there. What I thought I'd do just quickly is have a look at some of those licenses. The one that Ellen was speaking about as the one that's recommended, the Creative Commons open license, is down the bottom there. We won't worry about talking about public domain licenses today, but under the open category, that Creative Commons by attribution license and the Creative Commons share alike. The by attribution license is the one that you will see most standardly here in Australia on all of our open data portals. I'm not sure why the symbol for share alike has disappeared, but it's actually that one at the very bottom of the slide. It just has that additional SA at the bottom. But that's what. So basically, the attribution license, the Creative Commons CC BY, is called conveys an open permission to access, use and share that content in that data for any purpose. It doesn't transfer ownership of the content, and you always have to credit the creator. That's why it's called attribution. So if it's a data set you're using from Transport and Main Roads, Department of Transport and Main Roads, for example, you need to give it, acknowledge that they are the creator and owner of that data in your use case. The share alike license is less common here in Australia. It's much more common in the UK, where Ellen was at the time when she was recording that video. And that's more what we call the viral license. It takes a little bit further away from a true open license, whereas with an attribution license, all you need to do is attribute the creator. A share alike requires you to impose the same kind of restrictions if the reuser does modifications or enhancements to those original data sets. Then that same restriction of share alike must come through the work that they do. So it's not it's not ideal, but if that's the data set you're working with, then that's the situation in which you can reuse and share. Okay, let's have a look at some of these case studies. So the one I was going to start with today was my community directory. I did briefly mention that in the first webinar that I gave. So this is a not-for-profit organisation. It consumes a variety of open, shared, not probably so much closed data, but perhaps a degree of closed data, but mostly shared and open data from a variety of different sources. Some of those sources are public. It might be data from local councils and from state government, but also from individual service providers and support services. I had a good chat with Brenton Parkin, who's heavily involved in this setting up of this organisation, to sort of understand where open fits in the spectrum of what they do and how important it is to his business. His view is that open data of itself as a source of data doesn't deliver a revenue stream for them, and they couldn't deliver their service entirely relying upon open data, but it creates value. And what they do is how they see open data as being significant for their business and their service that they provide communities is in the way it combines with the other data sets that they use. So basically they're using open data in three indirect ways, and it's that combination of using open data with their other data that's important. Firstly, they use open data to validate other data. So they might use ABN data or ABS data around population, etc., and demographics, domain lookup, location mismatches and open maps to verify the data from their other sources. The second way they're consuming open data is to link it together with data from their other services to enhance their own service delivery to their communities and individuals. The third area in which they use open data is they create new insights by looking for patterns and trends that they're able to generate from the combined nature of that data that helps them to better understand what people in certain regions are looking for and what services are important to them in that particular area, so they can start to see if there are patterns and trends emerging that they can then use that to produce informed comparisons across different locations and provide that insight to councils and other public service providers to plan and better anticipate servicing the needs of those communities. The other example now was the RDNS and the PHRN. We haven't had a huge amount of contact with these organisations, but I understand that they are a large provider in Victoria focusing on evidence-based community care that they support through their own research institute. Health data's got a lot more application in the shared data space, as you can probably anticipate, because of the need for greater restrictions to be placed around health data. It's sensitive in nature. It might have identifiers in it. And so it tends to be data that's made available to specific people or to specific organisations for specific purposes. So if you recall from the data spectrum that we briefly looked at earlier in this webinar, but in more detail at the earlier webinar, it's that sort of shades of different greys in the middle of the spectrum of data. As the experience of the My Community Directory example has shown, the core value that open data brings is when it's combined with shared data and other data sources, other sourced data. I mentioned the PHRN because their focus is on linked data and being able to have shared data in such a format so that it can be readily combined and more usable to create value. They've just completed a national survey that will help them prioritise their efforts on which data collections across from state to state will be of greatest value if they invest in making them consistent to enable linkages across the country. So different data collections exist in different states, and over time that's been obviously and quite naturally progressed into different collections of data and with different nuancing around the standards and formats, etc. So what they're now looking to do is, you know, you can't boil the ocean, so they're just going to try and tackle the data in a priority order of what's needed most, and so that's the results of their survey. We're working with the PHRN to help that process inform our project that we're doing right now with the Queensland Government to help Queensland Government identify data sets that would be of greatest value to the community if they were made available as public open data. The transport example and the example in Victoria, a Victorian-based example is this one. I thought it was an interesting use of open data, and particularly in the context of our conversation. It's a journey planning app, and you might sort of think, oh well, that's, you know, that's not that exciting. There's plenty of those around, and we have them in Queensland, TransLink Journey Planner, etc. But what's different about this one is that it enables this 5-minute window for travellers to be able to. So if you're at a bus stop, you can have it. You put in that bus stop or your location, and it gives you an array of options that are available coming in and out of that location for a 5-minute window. You can expand that, but it's good, really good for informing transport decision making kind of on the fly. The other thing that's really useful about this app is that it takes, it creates opportunities to customise so that people can put photos of certain locations into their app, and look, you can customise it, you can have it on your Apple Watch or on your smartphone, and it might help people that have got memory impairments and things like that to help them get around by putting in photographs of scenes or landmarks that they recognise, and rather than a number of a bus stop, for example, and things like that. So people that are supporting those that have those kind of requirements, this sort of app allows it to be really heavily customised, which I thought was really a fantastic use of public open data to generate value and answer a need in the community. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the sort of final area I wanted to touch base on was okay, well, we've talked about data, we've talked about open data, and we've today gone into a little bit more about some of those opportunities of finding stories in data and unlocking value in data. We've looked at some licensing and some case study examples of how others are combining multiple sources of data with open data to better serve the communities around them. Where do you start in terms of getting skills and understanding what you don't know and how easy this stuff can be? So we've created a whole bunch of learning opportunities, and I don't want to spend much time on this because it's not really an ad for ODI, but as I said at the beginning, we are funded through sponsorship funds, but we deliver services to try and eventually become financially self-sustainable. It's quite an ambitious task, let me tell you. But this is the skills framework. We brought it up and had a quick look at it at the last webinar, but I think it's good because to have another look at it today, just to help you think about where you are on your data literacy journey, and use that as a tool to help map out, you know, what sort of skills you might want to think about building into your capability to future-proof yourself and enable you to take advantage of the opportunities that are all around us as more and more data is being made publicly available for each and every one of us to use and share and combine with our other data sources to create value. Now, I'm happy to open up the floor for questions and jump back into any of those case studies or anything else if you like. I'll just stand by.
Thanks, Maree. That's great. You provided some really good practical examples, I guess, for us in our sector. We'll just encourage people to place their questions in the question pane, and we'll hopefully get to all of those questions. I guess to start off, Maree, our research is showing us in terms of the community care sector that very few organisations are in fact using data in any way to inform their practice. But those that are, and we believe it's a very small percentage of providers, are actually driving innovation and are at the forefront of service transformation, I guess. But also there is a lot of evidence to line up those who are winners in the funding and arena that are those ones that are using data throughout their organisations. Is that similar in other industries, or are there some industries that you could recommend for community care providers to perhaps put a focus on to learn some lessons from?
Short answer, I think, Han, is that it is a fairly similar challenge across multiple sectors. When we did the workshop just recently, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, where we brought in businesses from agriculture, education, health, tourism, transport. I'm just trying to think what the list was. There was about 6 sectors that the Queensland Government had asked us to target for our engagement on, what kind of data sets would be valuable to you. There was clearly varying levels of maturity in the room as to how they even approach and utilise data at all, even their own data in their business. So I think it's just part of a journey, and yes, there are exemplars, and the exemplars for as I mentioned, they're my community directory. Even they are struggling to use open data effectively, because what we've got available still right now isn't fabulous quality. It does require some effort in order to prepare it for use. Not always, but most of the time. It's getting better, but we're sort of not at the point yet where there's a wealth of really high quality usable data out there for others to use. And so until we get to that point, I think there will be only those organisations with very high maturity in terms of their data usage skills, will be the exemplars, as you say.
Thanks, Maree. The other question is perhaps a comment about some research that's happening in the sector. And Jenny's asking the question, or making the comment, I guess, that a recent research project identified numerous data sets within an organisation, but the organisation also found out that exactly what you're saying, that the quality of the data collection wasn't as good as it could be, but also that the data collected was often duplicated, repetitively duplicated. Now we find this issue particularly with, we're very involved with the development of new government structures and structures that are trying to move towards a common, for example, a common client record, but sometimes actually even duplicating that effort to primary data being duplicated so many times. Does ODI play a policy lobbying role, is Jenny's question, in trying to get governments to streamline their expectations around data, but also the quality of that data?
Yeah, We do, particularly in Queensland, unfortunately, is sort of the limit of our exposure at the moment in that arena. We've had some influence in the open government partnership stuff that the Australian government's been working on around its data availability, and certainly we've had some input into the public Productivity Commission inquiry into the availability and use of public data. But what we're doing here in Queensland is working with the custodians themselves inside Queensland Government to settle on some agreed standards to also elevate their maturity as a creator of data in the first place, and a manager of data, and a custodian of data. So we were involved, specifically engaged by Queensland Government to help them develop their open data policy, and that's hopefully imminent, coming out through the Queensland Government now. But the other thing we're doing, which is going to be our third open data project for Queensland Government, is we're working on a metadata generator, and that's going to be a really exciting outcome, because what that does is it validates data. It also can confirm aspects of the metadata, so that you're producing consistency, which will enhance searchability across different data sets, and make sure that's managed a lot more easily. So that's called the Comma Chameleon project, and that's going to be something we're embarking upon. Well, we've pretty much just started on that one, so we're hopefully going to have an app available for anyone to use in October, and that's going to be built on global best practice, the ODI, I can't think of it, Open Knowledge, and there's a third organisation that's involved in linked data. They've all put input into these tools, and we're just bringing them together and make it one single easy to consume app that anyone can download from App Store, on Google Play, or on Apple iTunes.
Terrific. Thanks, Maree. I've got a question from Frank. Frank's picked up on Alan's video presentation, where she commented that savvy providers or savvy governments might also be in contracting organisations allowing high use of data or an exchange of data. And Frank asked, have you got any examples of contractual arrangement clauses that would include that you could share?
That is a very good question, and we would love to have been able to have some standard clauses for procurement. We did adopt the ODI in the UK have done some, and we tried to create sort of localise those and have those available here. I got some advice from the Ausgol people at the time that it wasn't really a good idea for us to be doing that because of the constant variables in contracts, but you can certainly have a look at them. We've got them on our website under, I think they're still there under guides, but on the ODI head office website, they're there as well under guides, and you just look for procurement guides, and that's where they've got them.
Terrific. One of the activities that we're doing in the next couple of months, the Minister of Ageing has just announced today, I think it's 43 recipients of their innovation grants. And what we're hoping to do, we're a recipient of a partnership of 2 large grants under that funding. And what we're hoping to do is to bring all the funded projects together to share and the data across projects, and so that also would be a really helpful thing to, I guess, for those projects, but also for the broader community care organisations to be able to share some of the data that will be coming out of those innovation business transformation projects. So we'll look forward to, perhaps Maree, we can put a news item following this on our web that people can go directly to that site. I've got a question also from Steve now. Steve, I think you're in one of our interstate visitors. I think you're a Victorian. Perhaps you'll move to Queensland one day. And Steve's just making comment on the massive amount of data that the National Disability Insurance Agency is collecting, particularly in respect to assistive technology. And he comments that this is obviously of great importance and value to both businesses and services that are in this space. And he's asking that he understands that the NDIA has an open data sharing policy. Could you assist him in telling him where they might be in terms of providing public access?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that one to be able to answer that one properly, I'm afraid. I can definitely check in and find out where that's up to, if you like, and come back to you on that one.
That would be great, and perhaps we can get straight back to you, Steve, on that one directly. I've got just a couple more questions. One from Harry, who's exploring employing someone in his organisation to look closer at the data that they're collecting or the data that they need to access to enhance their service delivery. And Harry's new to this area and asks what he should be looking for. Are there particular roles or terms that are used to get the right person? And he's broadly calling them, he wants the right data specialist, but what should he be recruiting or looking for?
Oh, okay. So, look, that's a tricky one to answer without sort of knowing a bit more about what you're looking for there, Harry. But I think what you're highlighting is the challenge that we've all been facing, and that is there's no specific indicators or of skills and things like that for mainstream people. Sure, you might be a data analyst or you might be a data scientist, but that's a very broad field. And so I think what you're highlighting is kind of how do I differentiate between these kind of skills, and how do I articulate what it is that I really sort of want to try and achieve in my business. It isn't an easy one. That's something I might be able to help you with if I sort of speak a bit more to Ellen Broad about, because she's at the one of the ODI's certified trainers, and so they've spent a lot of time kind of coming up with ways to help people describe their skills and their capabilities. So maybe that kind of language is what you could use when you're seeking someone. One of the things we're trying to do to help address that problem is the skills framework that I showed before, which is that big honeycomb of lots of little different hexagons. We're going to create digital badging for people who are qualified and have done our courses and attained those skills, so that they can demonstrate that at least they know how to clean data and they know how to do visualization of data from our training. But it's not really something that's universally around, so it is a bit of a challenge. But I'm happy to take that question to Ellen and seek her guidance and come back to you on that one.
That would be fantastic. Maree, that's a great offer, and we're certainly happy to be the link to get that information back. I guess the next questions are two about your organisation itself, and one I think you've just answered it. You talked about increasing data literacy and the courses that you offer, and the question was, you know, are they credentialed in some way? I guess your badging of those people who are accessing that training and skill development, are they nationally accredited courses?
No, they're just course content developed by the Open Data Institute in London that we've localised, and we're delivering through trainers that are certified by the ODI in London. It's pretty informal at this stage, and there's no exams or any actual qualification that's attained. They're more designed for people who are, say, working in research or working in government, so that they can demonstrate that there's been, you know, skills and capability development, but it's not, and to when you transport yourself within either within government or from you know, organisation to organisation, to actually demonstrate that you've got some proficiency there. But that's the level that we're at the moment.
That's great. And one last question: does the ODI have individual membership as well as organisational membership?
We certainly do. The problem we have is we're just migrating over to a new website. We were hoping to have had that ready about a month ago, but it's just proven to be a bit of a onerous workload. As soon as that's up and running, our new membership program will be launched, and you'll be able to sign up to that. We did have a membership program running. We do have probably about, off the top of my head, about 40 to 50 individual members, but we've had to shut it down while we move to the new website, and it'll be open soon. So I'll send the link with the answers to those questions, because I'm hoping to have the website even up in the middle of next week.
Tremendous. Thank you, Maree. That's really informative presentation, and thank you for customising it, those case examples, to some that are of interest to our sector. Thank you very much for today's presentation.
Oh, that's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'll come back to you with those answers.
Thank you very much. In closing today's webinar, I'd just like to remind people, if you're not formally registered for the collaborative, the registration site is on your screen now. We'd encourage you and others that might be sitting around listening to this webinar with you to ensure that you register and get our regular updates. We've got a few more upcoming webinars for the next couple of months. On the 25th of July, this really, I guess, leads on from Maree's presentation and is very complimentary. And we've got David Baines, expert from the UK, talking about the future of open source and assistive technology. On the 2nd of August, where we have our colleagues Julianne Lambourne and David Swain from Far North Queensland, talking about their vision for outstanding delivery of remote services through technology and innovation, and they'll be joining us for a session on the 2nd of August. And on the 22nd of August, due to popular demand from our recently highly successful conference at QUT, Dr. Andrew Reason from Data 61 in Canberra is going to rejoin us and talk about innovative workforces of the future. We're also part of Advanced Queensland Digital Queensland Roadshow that's looking at digital enhancement and the importance of digital literacy for everyone. Our next port of call for that roadshow is Mount Isa on the 28th of August. So if you're in that area, we'd love to see you in Mount Isa, and this builds on a highly successful range of tours that we've been doing with Advanced Queensland around the state. And on the 2nd of October, leading on from the successful conference at QUT, we're doing another community care business transformation and innovation series, and that more details are just being finalised this week. In closing today's event, I'd like to thank the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology project team, and for those who have worked on today's presentation, Imogen, Eli and Samantha. The expert reference group of the collaborative project to provide a great degree of advice and direction to the project, the Queensland Government for its funding, and of course today's presenter, Maree Adshead. So thank you, Maree, again for your presentation today, and we look forward to having you present on other occasions, and we look forward to those participants who joined us today. Any further questions on today's presentation or anything regarding the collaborative, please don't hesitate to contact, and the contact details are on your slide. Thanks everyone for attending today.